But hey, let's go to the phone lines and bring in our good friend John Bacon, New York Times best-selling author. Grab one of those many best-selling books for a holiday gift. Of course, Michigan historian on X at John Bacon. John, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, John.
Hey there, guys. I'm doing shockingly well, fellas. How about yourself?
Well, you know what, John? It's almost like this euphoric feeling, and this is what sports does to us, right? I mean, I'm lobbing f-bombs in front of my kids and things like that. I mean,
yeah, there's some of that.
You know, it just felt like it had to happen. As you said the last time you were on with us, John, it felt like this one counts for 3, and I think that's why it was so big. How would you characterize it after this one?
Well, I said it before the game, luckily, so I don't sound quite so stupid after the game. I always prefer that. But no, I was saying on your show and all my interviews and on Twitter and all the rest, this game is worth 3. And it will probably be, in hindsight, the biggest game in this long and very rich rivalry. And I'm even including 69, Bo Schembechler, his first game against Ohio State when they had not lost a game in 2.5 years and about to be national champs again. I would say 06 is right up there, 1 versus 2. Bo passed away the day before. Of course, all the chips in the line and so on. But this one is worth more for a lot of reasons. One, all those stakes are still on the line. It was for the division and, frankly, a pretty easy pass to the college football playoff based on the final game against Iowa. It's the bragging rights and all that. But on top of all that, it's the last time it's going to be a 14-team Big Ten. You add 4 Pac-12 schools. You might get rid of the conference final game. And you got a 12-team playoff next year. So next year, yeah, it matters, but both teams are going to be in, almost certainly, and probably Penn State too. So those are semifinal games now. They're not the be-all and the end-all. And one last thing, because what the hell, Ryan, with all the sign gate stuff and all that, if Michigan lost that game, the narrative in the media and certainly in Columbus was going to be that you can't beat us without cheating. Those 2 games are tainted, blah, 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 blah. And now with Michigan winning this game without your head coach, without Zinter for the fourth quarter, without obviously Will Johnson, their best player to stop Harrison in the fourth quarter, man, all that stuff's got to go away. And, of course, the signs seem to be no issue this time around. So it's a straight-up win, and now, as a result, amazingly, ridiculously, fairly or not, accurately or not, all 3 games now look like Michigan's.
And, John, when it comes to that, for all of those reasons that you eloquently stated, all of which are true, how good do you feel for the players? Because this whole thing just took away from that 21 team, from that 22 team. Mm-hmm. Hell, even these guys that have been through everything over the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season, for the players that wake up early and they go to the weight room and they do these extra things, how good do you feel for them? How much do you think it matters for them?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to feel good for any players, but if I was, I would.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And look, I mean, whatever happened had nothing to do with the players. I also think whatever happened had very little impact, if any, on the outcomes. Now, if that's the case, then don't do it, of course. That would be the counter-argument, and not a bad one. And again, to repeat the obvious, if Michigan broke the rules, they'll have to pay the price. That's all there is to it. And I don't know anybody saying otherwise. But I don't think it is why they did so well these last 3 years. And the players have done all the extra work. And look, Roman Wilson called it out in the press conference afterwards. Ohio State was soft, and they were. And look at that last play. You got Moore, sliding into the gray zone to stick his neck forward and make that play. And you got Harrison, his hands go up, and he wants no part of it. And maybe that's a business decision, but the tougher team did, in fact, win this time around. And also, by the way, as you mentioned, Ryan, correctly, in my opinion, that the 21 and 22 teams, they took some solace in this as well, because it helps validate what they did as well. They're just the better team.
You talk about toughness, John. Is that how and why this rivalry has flipped? Michigan's just tougher?
If you had to boil it down, I would have to say yes. And if you look at the last 2 games, 21 and 22, man, what I was not expecting in either of those games was Michigan just pushing Ohio State around in both of them. Now, granted, that is the more winning best offensive line in the country, but so the D-line was great. and that surprised me. This time it was probably even on the lines. I don't think it's not the same level. But I mean, look at the toughness of the head coach. Michigan does not win if Sharon Moore does not go for 3, count them 3, 4th and 1s. And they got all 3, and they led to 2 touchdowns. And you don't get the 2 touchdowns without it, obviously. And Ryan Day, 0 for 0. He never went for 1, even when probably 2 or 3 times he probably should have if he had faith in his players. Sorry, that's a kind of toughness as well. And you wonder if, I mean, Don Brown, for example, was a great defensive coordinator at Michigan. He gets ripped now unfairly, I think, except for 1 game a year. And that was the Ohio State game. His setup did not work. And you kind of wonder if Ryan Day is the head coach in that same category, basically, where, you know what, 11 games, you're very hard to beat, except for 1. And in Columbus, that'll get you fired. So we'll see what happens.
Hey, John, great seeing you on Saturday, first of all. And I wanted to ask you about Jim Harbaugh going forward. Now that he got this win, it kind of validates his coaching tenure here at Michigan. I mean, I've said it from day one. The day when they lost to Michigan State on trouble with the snap, I believe Jim Harbaugh, that was his lowest day as a head coach, and he got it back and took this team to its highest. This team has never been better. This is better than even the 97 team. This is a run that they're going on. It's a historic run here at Michigan. What is your take on Jim Harbaugh going forward, John?
Well, I think actually you're right. And if you get on Sam Webb's site, the Michigan Insider, he quotes a 97 player, not by name, but as saying that this team is better than 97. It's the best Michigan team has ever seen.
Yep.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but, man, I mean, if that's the debate, you're in a certain category, aren't you?
Yep.
And it also shows you just how long it takes to build something that truly is that strong top to bottom. He was almost there, it seemed, in 2016, but the foundation was not the same. And that was proven in 18, 19, and so on, 20 certainly, at 2 and 4. But 3 years of this to get everything in place. He's got his coaching staff in place. People forget this also. Man, Connor Stalions, whatever he did, I mean, we'll find out as the evidence unfolds. But what Harbaugh did in the offseason that year was swap out 6 of 10 assistant coaches. If that is not a big boy bet, I don't know what is. I mean, that is do or die. Now, it usually takes 2 or 3 years at least for that to work if you're lucky. But it had to work that season based on the contract. And it did, of course. They won the Big Ten and beat Ohio State. So that's a big boy move right there. Going forward is your question. Excuse me. Man, I've got no idea.
Yeah.
Certainly there is – the Raiders are available, looks like. Las Vegas now. Chicago Bears. Others have seem to be poking forward. We'll see. Perhaps the L.A. Chargers. But, of course, there's still no contract yet. I was told in October that was going to be done by the end of the month, and here we are. And I think we know what's holding it up, of course, is this investigation. And perhaps, why offer a contract unless you know Jim's going to take it? I don't know where things stand right now. My guess is nobody does. I think it's all up in the air. If Harbaugh left, my strong hunch is Sharon Moore would be the guy, and you certainly see why that would be the case. But would it be the same? Nobody knows. And Sharon Moore has not been a head coach. He has been for 4 games, and he's undefeated in very big contests. That is not easy. And he's got the respect and the affection of everyone I know in that building, including Harbaugh. But whenever you make a change like that, there's always a chance. So you don't know.
Talking to John Ubacon, New York Times bestselling author and, of course, Michigan historian. And you mentioned the 97 team, and, Sam Webb quoted one of the players on 97 as saying that they were better. Is that the only way this thing can finish in 23-24 is with a national title for it to be a successful season? I can't believe you say it's national championship or it's failure. But does it feel like it's pretty close to that?
Certainly, Michigan fans are back to their old ways of being really spoiled and a little greedy. And I recall when they were winning the 5 straight Big Ten titles at the end of Bo's career and the start of Gary Miller's career, people complaining about a lack of a national title. It's like, dude, you got 5 straight Big Ten titles. It's got to count for something. And some bowl wins in there as well. I certainly would never buy the idea that it's national title or bust, or else 119 teams have a crappy season. I can't believe that. But I can say with some confidence, this team probably has as good a chance to win a national title as any of them. And I would say, in 2021, they're happy to be there. They're grossly outmanned by a phenomenal Georgia team. That was boys versus men versus boys, and that one's what it looked like. Last year they had a great chance, and they blew it against TCU. Play calling and pick sixes and all that in the red zone. Then this year, I don't know if this. Part of me thinks last year's team was better than this year's team. This year's team does not blink an eye. They go to the playoffs. They expect to go to the playoffs. They're not going to be starry-eyed. It won't be that big a deal, I don't think, for them. And the Georgia team we're looking at is not the one we've seen the last 2 years. Who's to say who'll be in the finals? But I think they have as good a chance as any. But, man, if fans are out there putting their whole hopes on a national title or bust, boy, this is a brutal game. Watch yourselves.
Hey, John, is there anything that that we could see as fans or people who cover the game, reporters, analysts, what have you? What has Jim Harbaugh and Michigan failed to do over the month between the date of the final game and the bowl game or the playoff game or whatever game they played? Because this has been a theme now. Michigan hasn't been able to win the bowl game, hasn't been able to win a playoff game. Is there something that Michigan is not doing or hasn't been able to do over the month of preparation? Do they do something different this year?
Well, great question. I'm not in the building, so I couldn't tell you exactly what they're doing or what they could be doing differently. Again, I think 2021, it wouldn't matter what they did. Now, that team ran out of gas is what it felt like in that game. They probably could have played better than they did. Last year's game had nothing to do with preparation, I think. It was just, frankly, 2 pick sixes from J.J. McCarthy and 2 very questionable decisions inside the 5-yard line that should have resulted in touchdowns and instead resulted in turnovers. I just listed off 28 points. Take 14 of them and you win. So that was in-game decision-making, I think, is how that one broke down. This year, who knows? Man, if I were them, though, I don't know if I'd change anything. I think last year's team was ready, and I think this year's team will be ready, too. The next question is who they have next, and I can't imagine them losing to Iowa, famous last words. But my guess is they'll get a Pac-12 team in the first round. Somebody good, Washington or Oregon. But we both know those teams don't play defense. So we'll see how that shakes out.
Hey, John, how about J.J. McCarthy? What's your thoughts on him, the game he played? Now he gets Harbaugh back on the sidelines again. What is your take on him going forward? Is he sticking or is he going? And just your opinion on him in general.
I would doubt that he stays, only because he's probably going to be a first-round pick, is my guess. But who knows how it all shakes out based on combines, last couple games and all that business. But, man, over the last 3 games, even though his stats went down, he did one of the best jobs of anybody at that position, I think. Look, he's been banged up on and off the whole season. And they keep that quiet, of course, for obvious reasons.
Yep.
But started with Bowling Green. But Penn State is clearly banged up. You can see him walking off that way. Maryland, too. The right knee. Got him better for this game. But, man, that thread he threw to hit Wilson, Roman Wilson, exactly where he needed to be, that was double coverage. And if you flinch on that one, you're going to lose. Again, back to toughness, in this case mental toughness.
Yep.
He had it. And he did everything they were supposed to do to win, and no turnovers. 2 versus Maryland. Everyone's panicking, of course, on the Michigan side. And, man, clean as can be, and a game you couldn't afford them. So I think that was one of the gutsier performances. Not one of the best in terms of what they'll be talking about years from now. But look at the stat line. I've got it up right now. 16 for 20, 148 yards passing, 80% obviously passing, a rating of 158.7. Man, that's how you win championships. And he gave his team what they needed.
Hey, John, last one from me. I just wanted to go to the Michigan State side of football right here. What is your take on their hire of John Smith from Oregon State? And how long before they can compete again?
I think it's a great hire, and the kind of hire they should have made, 3 years ago before they hired Mel Tucker. The Spartan fans out there, and God bless them, Spartan fans is not fair. Spartan fans have been great to me, including some on Twitter. And there's, of course, the whole Twitterverse.
Of course.
I said when they hired him for $5 million, this is a panic move by Beekman, an inexperienced AD, because in part because they're after it was a late hire because D'Antonio held him up to get his final contract, his final payment. So it puts you in a bad spot. I said, I said at the time, I have no idea if Mel Tucker is going to succeed or not. Who knows? But I know he's not worth $5 million at 5-7 in his 1 year of coaching. And then, of course, they did the same thing with $95 million. I said the same thing. That, do you really know about the next 10 years here? So there you go. In this case, they've got a coach on the rise with a track record. I know it's not a phenomenal record at Oregon State, but that's a hard place to win in a highly competitive conference, of course. I think he's done a very good job. And he's, 37, I think. He's hungry, and he could be around for a long time. You want excellence, you want stability, and I think Michigan State just got both. How long will it take him, Maz? I would say it's got to be at least 2 or 3 years, and Spartan fans need to be patient. But all you're looking for the first year or two is, man, show me a team that's got some fire, and show me a team that's got some brains and some discipline. Show me that, and then you add talent over time. That's what D'Antonio did, and did it very well.
Hey, John, last thing overall. This feels like chaos for the 4-team playoff. I got Big Ten champ. I got Pac-12 champ, whether that's Washington or Oregon, and then Michigan. So there's 2 spots. And then you have 2 spots open for 3 teams. Let's assume Florida State wins, goes unbeaten. What about Texas winning the Big 12 championship? And then what if you have, Georgia, heaven forbid Alabama beat Georgia, then what the hell do you do?
They will. They will win.
I mean,
They might. They might.
Who is your 4?
My 4, look, what the committee wants is what they have right now, which is 4 beautiful 12-0 teams, go 13-0. You got 4 of the 5 power conferences. Everyone's happy, right? Except for Big 12, I guess. They're out of luck. But, hey, they got a loss, so there you go. So that is what it looks like right now. Man, who the hell thinks it's going to be like that next Monday? I don't.
Oh, my God.
Last weekend,
so great.
Always does crazy stuff. And I think you called it, by the way, the Georgia-Alabama game. That 4th and 31, whatever the hell that pass was, in the corner against Auburn. Man, if I'm Georgia, it would have been such a sweet thing to see that get out of the way. I don't think Michigan wants to play Alabama, frankly. I'd rather not.
Nobody
if I was Michigan. Right. They're playing well at the right time, and watch out for Saban. He's been there before.
Awesome stuff.
I think –
please,
Georgia, watch that one, and then Washington, Oregon. I would rather bet on Oregon right now than Washington, based on the last month or so of play. Florida State, you got a backup quarterback in there against, a decent Louisville team, not a great one. So, man, like you said, who could get in? Oregon, Texas, Alabama, and Ohio State could all sneak in. And I think also if Michigan loses, I think that Michigan's not going to get a bid. It's too big a loss, too late against a bad Iowa, a so-so Iowa team. Plus the cloud hanging over them. That's going to be an intangible factor, I think. So imagine this. We could have a situation where Alabama leapfrogs Georgia, where Oregon takes over for Washington, Texas sneaks in, or Ohio State sneaks in over Michigan, which I doubt, but who knows? Man, the 5 through 8 could actually be in there the next Monday. Not very likely, but damn it, it's all possible. How often do we see a 7th or 8th seeded team sneak in at the last minute? It happens all the time. So who knows, man? Who knows?
I think Louisville is going to knock off Florida State.
I do too.
I really do.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Oregon, Ohio State, and Texas would love to see that.
Hell yeah.
No doubt. But, it's crazy because, how do you knock him for a backup quarterback? Freaking Ohio State went on to win with their 3rd-string quarterback, Cardale Jones. Remember that?
I do.
Oh, exactly. And Alabama did the same thing. They had 3rd-string quarterback.
Absolutely.
And by the way, back to Michigan, Michigan is not going to do that with a 3rd-string or a 2nd-string quarterback. I said they're out the whole season, the whole year, rides on J.J.'s shoulders, and maybe Will Johnson. 2 guys you can't replace. So see about that. But Florida State, those guys not going to look. If they win, backup quarterback or not, they're in.
Yeah.
You're 13-0. You're the ACC champs. You get it. Now they might be the easiest team to beat in the Final Four, based on the quarterback, but they will get in with that. That cannot be used against them.
Love it. Great stuff, John Yu. Thanks so much for spending some time with us. Happy holidays to you and your family, and we'll talk to you soon. Are you going to be in Indy or no Indy?
I have not decided yet. As I have posted, I am in fact writing a book on an unrelated topic, Edmund Fitzgerald. So, and some people out there can't tell the difference between writing an article about the thing and writing a tweet. Tweets are easy, people.
Right.
Articles take a long time. So I have not. I'm not. You'll be down there, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there for sure.
The Edmund Fitzgerald. You mean
If I go,
John, you mean the Big Ten or the Edmund Fitzgerald? Same thing, right?
yeah, both.
All right.
Thanks, John.
Both simultaneously. But if I go down there, I'll see you. I'll see you at the steakhouse.
You got it. I'll be there Saturday at 1 o'clock for
Son
an
of a
early
gun.
dinner.
Oh,
Good call.
hate you guys.
I'll see you. John Eubank and
you guys.
everybody. Buy
See
one
you
of his
guys.
books.
Love you, man.
New York Times best-selling author. You can get it anywhere books are sold. Also, Michigan historian. We got to take a break. I'm way over, but first, a message.